morning, everybody. Themba, Ari, and everyone in the comments. And I hope you like our new intro, courtesy of Joe Emilio, who isn't just a comedian and an edgelord. He also makes some pretty good channel trailers and stuff. So go follow him on Twitter and on YouTube and everywhere else. And goeienaand for American Warrior. You're going to love the topic, by the way. Pew Pew Nando, it's good to see you here again. Hang on. Made a video using your material article, gave you full credit. Totally. Please post the link. I'm always okay with people like using my stuff as content. How's it, Kermit? And how's it, Chris? Let's start with Themba. How are you doing? So I'm having a tafellager, of which the thing is peeling. What are you up to?
It's probably an honored tafellager.
The real beer. That's a real beer.
The fact guys dropped in.
It's been too long.
I just literally just came in to the house from work. I'm not up to anything yet. I've barely just settled in.
Hundreds. Look, if you need to settle in more and go grab something, all you have to do is turn your camera off, and we'll know what you're busy with.
We don't want to see the strippers in your house, Themba.
Huh?
We don't want to see the strippers in your house when you go get a drink. Yeah.
I really want to go downstairs, right?
Oh, gentlemen, I'm good. Kofu, see you after 10 decades, friend.
Yes. It's been a while.
You've been away for a while. We all have been, actually.
Yeah. Sorry, my roommates are being a bit of a problem again. He's trying to...
They're very cute roommates.
They're very cute. Last week we had the pleasure of having Floyd's roommates visit, and now it's yours. So we have a rotational schedule, clearly, which is awesome.
Keeping the content fresh, that's always good.
We also had your dog join us the other day.
Yes.
Yes. You know, these
what's her name?
People that don't pay rent, you know, they sponge everything off you, you know. Now they want to take over my shine right now.
These broke roommates we keep.
You know,
you're just busy poisoning the minds of the next generation, turning them into right-wing gun nuts who care about things like border security, resilience. You know what will the world come to? You know, the next thing you know, they're going to want to plant their own vegetable gardens. We can't have that. The World Economic Forum specifically
and make the world a better place.
Yeah,
can they plant ammo? Because I need an ammo garden.
Hey.
That would actually be a great invention if they could do that, you know.
I'm actually thinking I don't know how many years from now, but I'm pretty sure at some point someone's gonna come up with plant-based ammunition.
Hey, I would gladly work at that farm. You know.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if
cotton picker.
If the person you're shooting is vegan, then you can.
You're just feeding them what they want.
Oh, guys, this is going south.
You know, I mean, you have everything. I'll have 3 magazines. I'll have a kosher one, a halal one, a vegan one. You name it.
That is the
true definition with my vegan ammo.
So that bumper sticker that says coexist, you're just living that, Themba, as a so quickly to try and get us back on topic before people start running away. Last week we had quite a good discussion about the so-called mass shooting in the tavern. Did we ever unpack that? That was Lesotho nationals, illegal miners with AKs, shooting the place up as a gang hit.
Yeah, that is being touted as the facts or what is being investigated. I mean, there was a whole lot of articles. I saw at least 3 articles purporting that. So I guess we went very far from the mark, because we spoke about what people were saying around there, that there was two theories. Theory one being tavern wars, and theory two, which was most likely, was tough wars between Zama groups.
Yeah.
I remember a video you sent me last year, Themba, and you were kind enough to translate it for me as well. And it was about the Lesotho guys with AKs, and they were dancing in like a circle. And they were saying stuff like, we're not afraid of the police, but small boys, right? They were waiting for the military. I found it. What I'm actually going to try, ladies and gentlemen, my Themba is busy speaking. I'm preparing this so I can actually put it on the screen and you can see it. But Themba, just give us a bit more background while I'm doing that prep work for a moment.
Yeah, just put it. There's been so many of these videos from different places, from the Free State to literally everywhere. Some of them were from where I worked when I was in the mining security. Just hold on for me.
Well, I think I was busy sorting that out. I'm actually going to play the video. I managed to find it. It's just busy processing. So it's going to cut off our audio out, and it's going to play now. So here you go. So, which sports shooting association do you reckon those fine gentlemen are members of, so that they could license those AK type rifles? And I'm sure those are only semi-auto. I mean,
yeah, they probably belong to that or something.
They could also be. They could also be. What was that? Full semi-auto or something like that.
Huh?
Yes, full semi-auto with the shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah,
and high capacity magazines. That's definitely
what
that sounds so confusing.
Put it to context. That is a group of the Zama. I think everyone knows what a Zama is.
Oh, you got a very cute intruder.
Look, this guy. So another Zama in the house, illegal miner in my pocket. So what happened was, I think they had gone into a fight with another group. There's always tech wars underground and above ground. So after that, police were called, and I think police came, and then at some point there was a shootout. So these guys were basically celebrating that they know that and this is the fact, they know that they outgun and outnumber and can outmaneuver the police in that setting where they can go into those holes and whatever, and just basically in the areas that they operate in.
So it's like a mate, pretty much.
Yeah, so they were just saying, we don't care about the cops, bring them on, they're small boys, they don't even have what we have, meaning the full semi-autos that they were carrying.
Yeah.
But also, just to jump in there, I think there was also another video that you and I sort of saw. I don't know if it's Gideon and Elisjsha also saw the same video, where the cops were in, was a TikTok or something.
Yeah.
And the one police officer had his 92 on his sidearm, and he was approaching a group of guys, and they kept saying to me, "I shouldn't shoot us, don't get involved in trouble that you're getting involved in." And the cops ultimately turned away, shocked, and then they left it alone. And I think pretty much it's testament to the fact that police have lost all forms of respect from the civilians, from society in general. You know, I mean, this is not shocking at all. I don't even think you even have to have an AK-47, you know, for you to be afraid of the police nowadays. I mean, you just need to acquire a good trust and have your mates next to you. I mean, what are they gonna do? You know, I mean, we're talking about. I heard a very interesting thing that in the northwest in Garamsi, the police station closes at 6 o'clock at night because they're also afraid of the bad guys. I mean, that's where we are. You know, that's where we are. I don't think anyone is afraid of the police anymore.
So I'd like to add to this, Hofu, because let me bring this article up on screen. Oh, okay. Chrome has lost permission to share.
Hey, Gideon, can't share anything you're saying.
There was a
just
daily.
me?
There we go.
So, okay, I can't share the stupid screen off Chrome for some reason, but it was a Daily Maverick article, 7 June 2022. Headline: Electrician killed in shootout involving 150 Zama-Zamas at mothballed Sibanya gold mine. Video included. So, the whole story was 150 armed guys with handguns, fully automatic rifles, the lot, stormed this mine, engaged the mine security and their tactical team, from what I can gather. And Themba, you having done this, mine security tactical teams is not your average Joe with a truncheon. They're well trained, they're well equipped, usually relatively well paid and quite specialized. And some of them are former police and former military. Am I talking nonsense? Or okay?
On the money. You're on the money. In the cases that I was involved in, I mean, when I was in Mpumalanga, I used to also assist in, farm watch, along the mining area. And when we did effect arrest from time to time, some of these guys were actually ex-LDF. Some of them were ex-Mozambican military personnel. Some of them were, I think we found LDF, Mozambican, and I heard that some of them were former SANDF.
So we're talking seriously.
Yeah. So
that's something else there.
So in any event, so Ari, to make it worse, right? So these 150 Zama-Zamas engaged the mine security and the mine security tactical team in a protracted firefight lasting, I think it was well over an hour.
Yes,
and
that's long.
The SAPs just did not intervene at all. They stood down and only really came to mop up after the fact. So it's not as if you could rely. And I'll explain where I'm going with this in a minute, but I just want to put that out to the floor for discussion first, because there is somewhere I'm heading with this discussion.
That seems to be common with cops, though. They don't step in when they are needed. They step in to mop up.
Our police are very reactive. You know, and I mean, it's just,
that's your whiskey talking, bro. That's your whiskey talking.
Sorry, they just come up to the fact. You know, don't expect them to be sort of there when the heat is going down. That's just
okay. Here's the other thing, guys. Yeah. There was a time where, for some stupid reason, we spoke about it, I think, in one of the early podcasts, where they were, this is the cops, where they were disarmed of their R5 because it wasn't the right thing to do for them to have R5. So also remember that. But also remember that I told you this in July last year, they didn't have ammo. So
yes, I remember that. You did say.
Factor number 3. Yes, I was basically the armory. I was giving them ammo.
Yes.
And the other one was when what's the third one? 3 points that I wanted to make. The other one is they don't even have enough ammo for training.
Yeah.
So
I want to talk about that training because it seems to me that, you know how they say the root, you got to get to the root to all problems. Now, with our policing system, I feel like the whole training system must be put under microscope because what are they learning? What are they being taught? What do they take from it? Because it's weak.
Yeah.
For me, the cops don't have confidence, not as cops, but in themselves. Like you can train a person to go out and handle a weapon, and you can give them mock trials and safe, secure environments of what altercations could look like. But in a real situation, things happen so quick, happen so fast. You got no time to go through a list and things like that. So
Yeah.
your response time is something else. And I find from my little experience being new to the dark side, as Gideon put it, um, learning is fun, it's great and everything else. But when you watch other videos of when it actually goes down, a lot of your common sense is used. A lot of your intuition and stuff is used. That for me is the more experience you have, the better you are at it, etc., etc. But when it comes to these cops, I always had this impression growing up. Cops are very highly respectable. You need anything, you get lost, anything, you just find a person in blue, and you can breathe a sigh of relief, even if they don't know where you are, who you are, whatever. Just they'll help you. That has very quickly changed as an adult, unfortunately.
It's not
I'm like,
existent.
I'm irritated about it, very disappointed, and I feel almost emotionless about them now. It's like I don't want to admit it, but I think a part of me has lost or is losing my respect for them. Because I picked on it the last week when we were having this conversation. A simple thing as saluting. Do you go left? Do you go right? If you can't get that simple stuff sorted, how are you going to protect my life? I feel like I should just be hashtagging them on all these Chinese military videos so they can see what it should look like.
In actual
Well, that's
fact,
another conversation for another day, yeah?
can I jump in there? I could
Please.
let them. I could let them not being able to sort of, do the drills, the dancing drills or whatever, the brass band and all of that. I could let that slide, provided, they actually did their job, prevented crime,
But wait, I
where,
want to abruptly pause you there and say, it might sound like it's just a dancing brass band and things, but I get this impression all of that means something. It's all in the details. It's discipline. The one thing our people in blue lack is discipline. All of those marching things and all that, it teaches you a
and
lot more to your
integrity.
subconscious, yeah, your subconscious mind that you actually don't realize, but definitely need.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think if I'm allowed to jump in and interject the Themba, the only reason I muted you is because we're getting feedback from your mic for some reason. So
no, I'll mute it as well. Yeah.
that's 100. I don't think it's only boiled downable to the brass band, but Ari, I think you're touching on an important factor. It's mindset that is central to the issue, and when your mindset as an individual, whether it's as a law enforcement officer, is not correctly aligned with what you're trying to achieve, if you're only there because it's a job, if you're only there because you're told to be there, if you wake up in the morning with absolutely no sense of purpose and there's no leadership in your institution, then you're not going to perform remotely close to a professional level. And unfortunately, I think that's where we are. And I have friends that are still in the police, and they are good policemen, and they're trying very hard to be good policemen, but it is obvious that they don't have the support they need to be good policemen. And it's also obvious that a great many of their colleagues have no interest in being good policemen. They're there to keep their heads down, to not make too many waves, to not get shot, to collect their paycheck at the end of the month, as little as it is, to make sure that their family stays on pole meds so they have medical aid, and hope to eventually retire with a pension that hasn't been stolen. That
sounds like an average day job.
Yep. Sorry,
and an interesting, just to add on to this, an interesting twist. I mean, it seems as though our podcast and all the stuff that we do with regards to talking and preaching, firearms and education and all that, it has sunk in. I mean, for quite a few years now, I've been approached by drifts and drabs of people saying, "What can we do to help sort out the crime in our communities?" And so on and so forth. So last week I was kind of ambushed into a meeting in Soweto. Now there were guys from almost every part of Soweto, and these are guys who are now saying, "Dude, we've heard. What can we realized, especially after last July and with all these random shootings that have been happening, we realized that, as much as there may be cops on the ground that want to do their work, they're outnumbered, they're outgunned, they don't have the equipment, the vehicles and everything. We've got our own personal resources. We're willing to go for training. What do we do? Who do we speak to? Can you assist? Please lead us. Could be under your security brand or whatever, because we don't want to be labeled as a vigilante group. We want to do everything by the book, but who do we speak to? Because a lot of them won't even qualify, or even if they were to qualify, not everyone will just get called in to be a reservist.
Yeah.
Okay, so the guys are saying, but we cannot watch and say, well, the police are failing. How do we assist the police in doing police work? Maybe they can do administrative work and attend to GBV cases and whatever. But when there's CITs, when there's a hijacked vehicle or a hijacking within the area, when there's a CIT, how can we as private persons step in? Because on average, it takes, for a CIT, for instance, like the one that had happened in Orlando, in Soweto, I think the first police vehicle got there, I think 20, 30 minutes later, when everything was gone. So the guys are asking, how can we step in before they get there, so that when they get there, they find that the scene is controlled? Is there any training that someone is willing to assist us with? And I've been speaking to Saga to assist with this. Damian Enslin has been great at listening to these ideas and assisting on how to set up a proper neighborhood watch with proper structure. So he's assisting me with that. Tim Fleck is assisting. This is me now with the begging bowl, and we're not just begging for money. Money would be great because we need to buy a lot of things in the long run, but we're now asking for anyone, even if it's someone who says, I'm willing to train the guys. The guys are saying, a lot of them are armed. The guys are saying, we want to do this training. If someone is willing to give legal prep talk around doing this thing, if someone is willing to say, let's speak to this minister, that MEC, about having you deputized as peace officers, a lot of us, including myself, I mean, when I was in the CPF, I was taken to the Bukano Traffic College, trained properly as a peace officer to deputize police when they were working. There were many others, but your neighborhood patrollers in the CPF are not nearly enough to help fight especially the types of crime that happen in these communities. Now, guys are saying, we're willing, we're young, able-bodied, and we want to do something. So they've asked me to put this out there to say, anyone that's willing, it's gonna be guys in the East Rand have already started. If you Google Tata Zonke, it's already going on. In Soweto, we just starting. I was supposed to have been in a meeting now, but for personal reasons, I can't make it to the meeting, and I've got this podcast as well. And I think me putting out the word is much more pertinent at this stage.
That's really incredible, Themba. And I think I said it to you earlier when we spoke that, I'm so happy that you're getting a lot of guys that are actually coming out and saying, hey, look, we're putting our hands up. We want to do something, we want to take up, some sort of battle to protect our community, and I'm so happy that, we've got guys that are actually coming forth. And if you think about it, it's kind of sort of, putting some of us to shame to say, I'm just sitting in my house and not even contributing anything. And I mean, and guys are really just out there saying, look, we want to do this, because they realize that unfortunately we're a failed state. The policing system has fallen apart. We don't have leadership. We're saying here, and what else can we do? We can't exactly just abandon this country. So let's just, let's do something ourselves as a community to actually protect ourselves, to protect our people, and for me, that is probably one of the best things that, anyone could ever do, and if there's any way that I can help out, Themba, count me in. I'm there.
I was about to say the same, Tim. Please send me details about this so I can put it out on all the Paratus, like network stuff. Not that I've got a huge reach, but I've got something. And good evening. I'm going to say good evening to all our other guests in the chat in a minute. But that is a fantastic initiative, and I'm loath to train people in procedure because I'm not. The legalities are a landmine, but I'm happy to train people in skills wherever I can. And if we want to do a fundamentals course, a marksmanship course, I'm happy to come up and help out in any capacity, absolutely for free, because this is a neighborhood a neighborhood initiative. If it would be great if we can just cover my travel costs. I mean, that if we can find out a way to do it, because I've got a place to stay with my dad in Victoria. Figuring out rental car costs is not a major headache. It's literally just the plane tickets. But I think this is something that's
got enough room here in my house.
Happily stay with you. Happy to. And I think
just slide the address to me too. We'll make it an overnight meetup, and he won't even know what happened.
and then we live stream this from one camera phone. It's going to be a complete disaster.
I feel sorry for Themba,
No, but that sounds good, Themba. It's very good that that's happening. It's actually it's sadly comforting that people are coming to you and asking, how can I? But sad because people had to reach such a state in their private lives that they're like, okay, I'm no. And good because they've decided to do something about it. So the numbers they will grow, but I see in the long run, this is an initiative. It's more like, providing support for cops. So it's like like, how Bad Boys got a part 2, part 3, part forever. This is for our policing system now, part 2. And also, whilst you're at it, can you also just send the application for a new Minister of the Hat, please? I think he needs to change as well. I'm going to be ugly shamed. He's so big size. He don't look healthy and fit. How he's running a police, a whole portfolio by himself? To represent something, you need to embody it.
So,
he's the leader. People are supposed to listen to his
like, let's just ignore his body. Let's just look at his head. I mean, Kenneth Peterson, Kenny, it's good to see you. He needs to go, Yassas. And I'm presuming not speaking Greek there. You're not saying hello with Yassas.
No, you guys are looking at health, and I'm just looking at the brain. Oh, sorry, that's not my thing.
Come on, we all know the whole ANC is a graveyard. Come on,
And his age as well, man. Like, you need someone with fire and zest. You need a lemon in there.
By the way, I've gotten so many offers of accommodation in Gauteng. Like, how many of you are organ harvesters, by the way? Like, everyone wants me to come stay with them. Am I going to wake
I
up?
just need your brain. I just need your brain. That's all. I'm not too, just your brain,
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't trust you at all. I mean, you're just going to sit, you're going to torture me to death.
Don't go to Kofu's house, even if he's playing for everything. That one is corrupt. You ain't gonna make it to your meeting the next day. No.
You're so early in the morning. I drop him at the house tray. Meanwhile, his brain is in my boot.
So with Kofu, he's going to hit me with Red Garland, some sort of decent single malt, and cigars until I die. That's
and you won't make the meeting.
And you'll complain, I'm sure.
I won't have time to complain. I'll be dead. There you go.
But I'm really happy that guys are really taking up this sort of initiative and just trying to sort of protect their communities. I think it's very, very important. Even if we had a functioning policing system, I would still say, look, guys need to do that. Communities need to come together. Because at the end of the day, the backbone of any policing system is also sort of the community. And if the community is not banding together to try and sort of make things work and help out the cops, nothing works. In this case, we now have a community that's coming together and saying, hey, look, we want to make it work. We're tired of crime. We're tired of things happening that are just sort of harming our kids, harming our sort of people, But now, obviously, we can't really fix, the policing system. I guess we could, we could get rid of the leadership in there and do something about it. I don't know if you guys heard what Themba and Co said. I just heard snippets of it. And then he said something that he just sort of confirmed something that I've always suspected. And he said, look, we're very close to our own Arab Spring, and I think if you look at last year's riots, it's an indication of what's coming. The masses are tired. The crime is out of hand. I live in a security estate, but I still am not comfortable to go and have a smoke. I mean, I go have a smoke and I've got my gun on me. You know what I mean? Yeah. One could argue, I could just let it go quickly, take a puff and go back in. Even funny, now, I've got two guns on me. You know what I mean? This is where we are as South Africans. You go to the shops, you don't know if you're going to come back. And
here's an interesting thing. Another crime trend has been growing. So I lost one of the guys that worked for me. He got into a taxi. It was his day off. He got into a taxi to go visit a mate. And while he was inside the taxi, two of the passengers in the taxi robbed everyone in the taxi. And they shot at him and the driver. Unfortunately, we lost my guy.
No, man.
Your mic is bad, Kofu. I can't hear you.
Did he get shot? What happened?
He got shot.
By the same robbers?
Yes. During the whole thing, I think there was an altercation. He's one of those guys basically that won't take nonsense. He's a proper Zulu boy. So I think he stood up. I think he stood up to the guy and he got shot. And it does seem like those guys didn't take his firearm, but for some reason it seems Sebs doesn't know where his firearm is. I'm not saying anyone did anything here, okay?
Yeah. Could be that maybe someone read the file during the application and someone just thought, hey, free firearms, money would come my way and probably took it.
None of the passengers in the taxi took the firearm. The firearm was not removed by the criminals because after they shot the driver and this guy, they ran away from the scene. The scene was cordoned off and the firearm then disappeared.
You see, and things like this is what's going to add to those statistics they advertise in the news about illegal firearms. It's not illegal; it once was legal, and then this happened, and they just love their statistics. But the
Yeah.
reasoning or the truth behind it is a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Look,
Themba, just
no matter how things look, legal firearm owners are always going to take, a flag for a lot of things. I mean,
Oh
let's
yes, yes.
let's look at the US. And I think who's this young chap's name? Dickens, the one that smoked someone from 40 yards away. I mean, no one is. It's only a few that are praising him. You know what I mean? We all know the rest of what's being said behind closed doors. You know what I mean?
we don't like talking about good stories. So I went today. By the way, these aren't the ones. I did not do that at 40 yards. This I did from closer because I used the same target. But I put on an IDPA target with a handgun combatives chest cavity A4. I went out to 39 meters and I put 9 out of 10 shots on it in about 15 seconds. And that's by no way attempting to simulate what he did, because you can't. Firstly, no one was shooting at me. No one was running around screaming. I had no body alarm reaction. I just did it cold. The average person really is entirely capable of hitting a torso-sized target at 40 meters. 43 yards, whatever.
Driver did you use to make the hole? I mean, I just want to do this myself. What size Phillips screwdriver do you use to make the holes?
Use a pencil. Use a standard
HB. I'm going to try it.
The screwdriver is not thick enough. But then what you tell people afterwards is you just use your standard everyday carry gun with a. The only thing I changed is the sights. And it's a Gen 4 Glock. I put a Gen 3 trigger
love that
in
sound.
I love it too. The Gen 3 trigger is better. The Gen 4 trigger sucks. So if you have a Gen 4 Glock, change the bloody trigger to a Generation 3. But which is, in my opinion, still better than the Gen 5 trigger. But how often do people go and practice beyond 15 meters, beyond 20 meters? Hardly ever, unless it's a witch shoot.
Yeah, I did the same. I did the same with my Gen 4. I downgraded it to a Gen 3 trigger system, and I've since sold that Glock. I no longer have that Glock, by the way. A friend of mine decided it suits him better than it suits me, so I've since changed. No, it's another friend. So I've gone to the Glock 48 with the red dots. Same, basically the same size, just slimmer. Sometimes I forget I'm carrying this thing.
The 43X is such a nice piece, eh? But it's amazing. I think most of us, and I think we've had this conversation before, right? A lot of guys go to the range. They pack their gear, they get there, they unpack everything, put a ammo there, and then hold a gun, humping pigs, breathe, aim, sights, think about what they're doing. Boom.
That's what I'm talking about. That's in a safe environment. Real life, you ain't got time to blink your eyes. Hi, friend, you need to come closer to your mic. I'm struggling to hear you.
To hit something sort of like this. And that's why I also love, sport shooting, is that you get to experience the pressure. Yes, nothing is shooting back at you, but there's an element of pressure that just sort of, adds that sort of much needed, training element, if I may call it that. Because when you're breathing right, when you've got your gun in your hand, you can think about your grip. You know what I mean? I mean, think about a situation where, argument's sake, you're in a shop or you're at the tavern or something like that. You're about to, pick up some groceries or something. Now you've got 2 plastic bags or whatever, and then boom, there's the mass shooter. Or maybe you've even got your child. You've got groceries and your child. You've got a trolley. What does that picture look like when you draw and you can only shoot with your strong hand, with your one strong hand, at a sort of long distance.
So, quick story. You reminded me of a very unpleasant, like one of the most extremely unpleasant shooting range situations that I found myself in very recently. I think it was about a week ago. So I go to my usual shooting home, Tactical HQ, and I get there, it's a very friendly environment. Love the guys there, love him, beautiful guns. It's a place to go broke, basically. Now, I get into the range. So I'm an idiot because when I'm in that environment, I want to make sure that everyone is given all the attention they understand. So I see two guys, and I pick up that they're newbies. So I start talking to the guys. The one guy's excited; he just got his license. The one guy got his license a couple of months back, and he got hijacked. Blah blah blah. And this one was like, okay, dude, you need to also get on, the gun gravy train. So they're now armed. They're newly armed guys. So I'm like, okay, guys, let's go in. I don't know too much, but I've done a bit of training here and there over the years, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give them basics. Look at how they grip the firearm, for instance. The one that already had his firearm was dropping its front sights the whole time, so he was literally missing the target completely. So just going through that, and as we walk in, there's a gentleman next to us. So the gentleman he was standing there, paying very attentive. So as he raises his hand, I think in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm thinking maybe probably he's on the phone.
For a second, I'm coming back.
Cool. So I'm thinking dude is going through a practice of some sort. Okay, then he sends like 5 rounds down range. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have to give these guys the pep talk and, the stance and how you grip, the support hand and this and that. And this guy says, he turns and aggressively says to us, can you guys stop talking so much? I'm trying to, no, he didn't say anything. He says, can you guys stop talking so much? I'm thinking, what the hell? He says, yeah, you're making noise. If you want to talk, why don't you go over there with the people? I came all the way down here, to be alone. I'm like, dude, this is not the effing library. Tim's favorite line about this place is come make some noise. You're shooting. I'm just talking. You're standing next to me shooting. You're making more noise than I am, technically speaking. But you're in a flipping shooting range, not a library. What the heck? I was shaking. I was actually pissed off. Only to find out, one of the guys goes to complain directly to the front desk. Tim was busy. One of the guys from Tim's team comes in and says, well, it's probably the same guy that was giving us issues about how expensive ammunition and this and that. I'm like, why do people do this?
Because Themba, because people are dicks. And first off, on a positive note, Undemiso, very much congratulations.
Congratulations to you, brother.
This process. You're gonna get it, and I demand that you tell us when you get feedback. And if you don't get positive feedback, then you need to tell us what went wrong so we can make sure that you get it right. So here's holding fingers crossed for you and holding thumbs. And the more the merrier. And this is just kind of segueing to the gun debate quickly. So Guy Lamb, who's our favorite gun-free South Africa tame academic at the University of Stellenbosch, had a whole thing in the South African today or yesterday about they're now going on the 2-prong approach to gun violence, right? In the wake of the tavern shootings, is we need stronger policing, because they can't not say that, because the only study we ever did on guns and gun control in South Africa by the Wits School of Governance said that that's the only thing that really matters. And then he went to shoehorn the little line in there that legal guns are the source of illegal guns, therefore we need tighter gun control. And I'm just thinking, looking at those Zama-Zamas, looking at that guy from the Al-Qaeda gang shooting his gun into the air, he got capped in Klerksdorp this week. Look at all these guys running around with, I think there's between 3 and 6 million unlicensed firearms in South Africa, which is equal, if not greater, than the number of licensed guns we have. Explain it. Of course, you will never explain to me how the fuck, pardon my French on the Friday night, making it harder for good people to arm themselves and defend themselves is going to address that problem, because he doesn't care. The narrative is, we don't want people to own guns privately. We want the government to have the sole monopoly on the use of force. Therefore, these people are perpetrating a victim disarmament campaign in the 6th most homicidal nation on earth. And I think people like Guy and Lamb should be tarred and feathered for it. Like, what a puss, for want of a better expression.
Guy is a fucking dick. He's a dick of note. And I mean, Guy, if you're listening, you should go jump off a fucking cliff. Fucking boost. It's a piece and cake type mentality, isn't it?
I just opened the gate for the P bombs and the F bombs. Sorry, folks, this is not a family friendly show. If you thought it was, jokes on you. Sorry.
You've got an arm in there, so you are safe. You go ahead.
But I mean, it's a feed them cake type of mentality, isn't it? The people are hungry. The country's collapsing. So feed them cake, because that's what we have. I mean, we have bodyguards. What crime are you talking about? I'm able to walk down the street and talk to my constituents. I mean, I've never been robbed. I've never been hijacked. What crime do you speak of? That type of thing. I mean, let's think of a simple thing. How many politicians do you think know the price of bread or the price of cooking oil? I mean, those are the basics. And I'd like to believe, if you're a politician, you should really be, sort of attuned to what's happening on the ground, right? And the basics, the price of bread, the price of cooking oil. What do the people think about crime in their neighborhood, inside, in the country in general? And our politicians are so far removed from that I don't think they sort of fathom the problem that we have. The ANC is so out of touch with what's happening. That for them it's like, but we've got all these great policies, we've got all these great laws. Why are you guys complaining? I mean, crime only went up by 5% last year. So why is it a problem? It's only 5%. But in actual fact, if you quantify that 5% and realize that, hey, we went from having 30 people being killed a day to probably 35 or 40 people being killed this year. Then you realize, and you take it a step further, you realize that those extra 10 people, or actually all those people that died, those were someone's child, that was someone's brother, that was someone's, uncle. So unfortunately, going back to guys like Guy Lamb, it's like, if you can afford security, private security, you can afford to have a fancy fucking electric fence and be fortunate to be in that situation, right? You can order shit online. You don't have to go out as much. Your neighborhood is fairly safe. You don't have to worry about being pickpocketed at your local spa or whatever. You tend to sort of be out of touch, with what's happening until you start speaking to the guys. And I think, Themba, you spend a fair amount of time in the township. I don't spend as much time, but I mean, from the conversations that I've had with the guys, you get to realize, not just even in the township, even like, for instance, in my neighborhood, the amount of crap that's happening. I mean, just about 2 months ago, I was telling Themba, I almost got robbed running. I went jogging, and You know, I almost got jogged. I almost got.
What's he gonna rob you of your water bottle?
Yeah, maybe they wanted my very old sneakers. You know what I mean? You know, but that guy was actually going to get a bigger shock of his life because I was packing. I always pack when I go run, people.
But that's the thing now. You're just jogging. You have to pack whilst you're jogging. I mean, really?
Yeah, Hope does pack when he's jogging. He just packs twice.
It's good to have the extra weight. You know what I mean? It is good. It's more fat ass. You know what I mean? And you know. And that's the type of environment that we have. And unfortunately, it turns out there's a whole syndicate operating in our area that's robbing guys with their fancy bikes. They're taking their shoes, their smartphones, their smartwatches. So these clowns and idiots are obviously very sort of attuned to the fact that, you know, the sneakers we're wearing obviously cost a certain amount of money. You probably have a smartphone. It doesn't have to be the latest iPhone, but it's a smartphone nonetheless. You know, you probably have some sort of fitness device, you know, in the form of a watch, you know, or a band, and they can obviously get some money for it, you know, and this is stuff that's happening everywhere. And unfortunately, I mean, we look at Ramaphosa when he goes jogging with his fucking 500 bodyguards. I mean, you think dude is worried about fucking some bucky that just went past him 3 times and he's thinking, hey, that looks very suspicious. You know what I mean? There's 5 o'clock in the morning, there's a bucky that's passing me here, it's the 3rd time, me and my wife, we should probably go back home. He's not worried about that. So how is a guy like that going to sort of be in touch with what's happening to
He don't even get load shed.
Yeah, apparently politicians don't get load shed. I just read that.
So I just want to. I need to, because the beer's going through me like something fierce. I want to throw this. I want to throw this hand grenade into your chicken coop quickly, and I want you to react to it while I'm away. But according to gun policy, there's an estimated 4 million illicit firearms in South Africa. Illicit meaning unlicensed.
Are we surprised though?
No, but what my point is there's no way in hell that there's 4 million criminals with guns out there. What there rather is there might be a couple of tens of thousands, maybe at worst a couple of 100,000 criminals with guns. The overwhelming majority of these illicit firearms are owned by ordinary people who want to use these guns to protect themselves in a very violent country, and they cannot afford to license them properly, or they do not know how to go through the competency process, or they are intimidated by it, or it's not in their mother tongue and they can't complete the training correctly, or all these other things. So these are ordinary people that are just trying their level best to protect themselves, that have now been criminalized by a system that is actually anti-citizen and pro-criminal. And
I think that statistic you are giving is talking about people like me. Technically, I own a gun, but I haven't got it licensed yet.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure people like me are part of that statistic. So it's just dramatized.
It's amazing how, let's look, and I'm going to make 2 examples, right? Today, you are a legal
Themba, he's going to make 2 examples, ne?
Yeah.
The whiskey is talking.
But, sorry, where am I? What are we talking about? Kidding. So, today your license is expiring, right? And somehow your DFO has not been around to take your application because he's been spending a lot of time at Veritas down in Pretoria to sort out whatever issues. And then tomorrow, you are now an illegal firearm owner. Just like that.
Yeah.
Here's my second example. You've got a normal Section 13. You can only buy 200 rounds of ammunition for whatever caliber you hold. And that's likely going to be a 38 Special, 38 Super, 9mm, small calibers. But if your dealer dare sells you 1 extra round and you don't have dedicated status, you are breaking the law. Yeah. So I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you break the law, but what I'm saying is how stupid, you know, our laws can be in South Africa, right?
Just
look at amnesty. You know, we currently have probably 500,000 unlicensed firearm owners that are still expired licenses, right? These are guys that have done competencies. These are guys that want to renew their licenses. Guys that can walk into a police station and renew those licenses and comply with the law. But the state is actually fucking making sure that they stay, in that realm of owning illegal firearms, because the system was blocked and they can't renew their licenses. You know what I mean?
Listen, here's where the other big number comes from with those legal firearms. Remember, it's only in recent days that the tide turned and the people who forgot to renew their licenses are now considered legal again. I'm sure when that estimate was done, it was done with them in mind as well, to say, okay, there's over 400,000 who don't have renewed licenses, therefore. So, I mean, there's absolutely no possible way, with the level of criminality and how brazen our South African criminals have been, especially of late, that you're basically saying all of them, if with those numbers, you've got enough firearms in that number to arm every single criminal in and outside of the so-called correctional system. So there's no way that is possible. I agree with them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Politicians are the world's biggest problem, actually, if you think about it. Our problems don't really stem from a lot of things, but a lot of them stem from politicians. We've got politicians that are trying to push whatever agenda suits them. Now, the moment let's make a stupid example. The moment you're within a group of people and you're trying to achieve a certain objective, the moment you have one person who goes against the set objective that is trying to be achieved, and they try and push their own agenda, that introduces another very interesting dynamic where now there's this person who is actively trying to push to achieve their own agenda that suits them, and moving away from what the collective is trying to achieve. And that's what politicians do. You know what I mean? People want a better life. People want to be able to work, feed their families, feed themselves, be safe, and enjoy their lives. Politicians just want to create an environment that's conducive for them to rate the system, whether it be monetary.
To add to what you're saying, Kofi, think about it. If politicians were doing the right thing, really delivering on the promises that they make every time leading to election time, right? If they were doing the right thing, they wouldn't. For instance, nobody would ever have to do a door-to-door.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't need to campaign. Why? It's like when you're employed. You get what I'm saying?
That's ideal world conversation. In an ideal world, that's how it should be, where you don't have to, I would say, put in an extra leg. The work, the results should speak for themselves. But that is also an ideal world where the intentions are real, and the motivation behind it is truthful. Here it's say the right thing, do your own thing.
No. It's say the right thing and pack money under your mattress and sleep at every event.
Oh, I want to know, what is the name of this mattress that our president owns? That must be strong, man, to hold all those notes.
Hey, I tell you,
that base.
That's some Orthopedic,
Let's just do some free advertising here.
Definitely high end, that's for sure. How many millions is it worth?
I'm like 60 bar in a mattress.
Yeah.
That's like what? You get extra length. Is that like extra height and extra storage? I'll have the one with extra storage, please.
With a special savings pocket.
So
Pointed coils, guys, all in bundles. One coil at a time.
Before we get completely sidetracked by how unclassy our president is,
We need a bank called the Mattress Bank. It's about time.
Gideon, I think you need to end things here, bro. Has already gone south.
yeah, it's gone proper south. We're not, unfortunately, probably not going to be able to do this next Friday because I'm not. I am unavailable. But definitely the week thereafter, if you guys are keen, and I'd like to bring this back on a proper regular basis because I think we drop enough truth bombs. And by the way, final thoughts. Themba's got a great initiative going in Joburg. I want in on that. I want everyone who wants to help. Please, we want to make it as easy for you to get in on it. So Themba will give me the details, and I'll put it everywhere I can.
Yeah.
Themba, like, what else have you got for us, brother?
Tell yourself.
No, I've just been watching you gulp things down, and I'm thinking, I've got so much whiskey downstairs. I need to go cover the scope.
Yeah, go reach it.
I got petrol.
Ari, and you, well, if people want to find you and if you want to be found, where can they find you? What else do you have for us? And any final thoughts or suggestions?
I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but the thing is, I'm not that active as I should be on Twitter. But my final thoughts is, hey, as much as I'd enjoy the conversation, each man for themselves, and you are your own first responder.
Amen.
Nothing
sister.
will change.
Hallelujah.
Nothing will change unless you are the one to change it, protect yourself, and make sure your shit's in order.
Yeah.
There's too many lessons we have touched on, too many we haven't touched on. But yeah.
Be the change you want to see.
Amen.
And clearly a change people want to see is they want many back. So I'm going to have to tell Brian, just because he's in the UK, it does not exclude him.
They have technology there too.
They have technology. We can rebuild him. We have the technology. Sorry for the $6 million man reference.
He without a weapon is in trouble. I don't know what verse that is, but it just sounded right. Like I had to say it.
It did.
But, here's the strange thing. Now that you bring that up, I'm gonna go sidetrack a bit. There's an old struggle song that says umfano ngena spamu uzozisola, meaning loosely translating to a boy without a gun is gonna seize us.
Yeah. Amen.
This is such a good one.
It doesn't get any truer than that, you know. And I mean, Themba is speaking to what I was going to say, majority of the guys that are listening to what we're talking here and the podcast are probably armed. And anyone who's going to come across this at some point, whatever year, whatever minute, whatever hour, like what you said, Arishna, you are always going to be your own first responder. Even when you have a well-functioning policing system, you'll always be your first responder. Police react to events that have happened. If you're lucky, you might have a police van passing by and they hear some gunshots and, whatever squabbles and they come in. Get armed. And I always say this every chance I get, and with my friends, close people, I always say, get armed. Shit is getting real. It's not going to get any better. The crime is getting out of hand. We tend to look at things like the interest rate going up, and we think that doesn't affect us. It affects you because it means some person somewhere is probably going to lose their job, unable to pay for their mortgage, unable to take care of their kids, and they might probably just resort to a life of crime or something else like that. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but things are getting worse. We live in a failed state, unfortunately. Now we're dealing with something that we never thought we'd deal with, which is, mass shootings, everything in tablets. Now, South Africans sometimes get so fucking relaxed. We tend to think, oh no, we're so protected. You know, I'm at Spa, I'm at Pick and Pay, I'm okay. I'm at the mall, I'm okay. It can happen anywhere, it can happen anytime, it can happen to everyone. Anyone. Get armed, train, become become a part of the movements that are happening in your community to make your community safe. You know, do something. You know, Themba's got a great initiative. You know, if you don't have something like that in your community, maybe it's time you put your hand up and say, hey, look, fuck, I gotta do this, and start doing things. You know, Arab Springs do not happen by themselves. And I'm not saying we should have an Arab Spring. I'm just merely saying that movements that cause, you know, good things to happen, you know, are usually started by people. They're not started by politicians and all of that.
Yeah.
Guys, stand up, take arms, protect yourselves, protect the community, do good. Let's make this country great again without kind of smell like Trump. And let's make the country great again. You know, South Africa is an awesome country.
Karabo just brought something very interesting up. Gideon, we need to have a proper what do you call it? A proper agenda next time so we can streamline our conversations. Because I did have 2 videos in mind that I wanted us to talk about. The old man with the knife. You know, the desperation that, I mean, he even fell at one point because adrenaline, you know, his heart was, I could see the frustration that he's thinking, it's either me or these guys, you know. People need to start looking at those things. And then there was another one, which, funny enough, there was I don't want to call it a taxi. Let me rightfully call it a Quantum, a Toyota Quantum. That out of the blue just showed up when a man was being, I think he was being robbed of his speaker or whatever, and this guy had a knife and he kept basically he wasn't trying to stab him, maybe scare him off to say, you don't take your property back from me, I've taken it and I'm willing to stab you. And in seconds, lucky, in seconds, there was a TRT Kumbi, as we call them in South Africa. There was a TRT Quantum unmarked that looked just like a normal taxi, because and they gave the guy a proper PK. You know, for me, that was, you know, those are the situations that I'm trying to say to people, guys, if you see this, if you see these shootings, that should tell you, you need to get informed, you need to get educated, you need to get trained, and you need to get adequately armed.
Amen.
Yeah, every second you buy yourself is, how do you explain that further? Every second you buy yourself, you're buying it for yourself, your own life. You know, every action, every move you make could be the reason why a doctor will tell you, you lucky, you wouldn't have lasted 5 more minutes bleeding out. Things like that. I'm not saying live in fear now, where everywhere you gotta go, that person. Oh, just be aware, know what you're doing. You know, the safest I ever felt in my life was only one time in this country. And I wish it was an everyday thing. 2010 Soccer World Cup. That was the safest I ever felt. For the first time in my life, every 5 minutes, and I counted, I timed it on my phone. At that time I was living in Durban. Every 5 minutes there was a man in blue or a woman in blue walking past me. I actually cried. Please don't laugh at me. I actually cried that I could walk in town, pull out my phone, that someone is calling me, and answer the damn thing without having to go into a retail store and hide. Even there, you know, you got to be careful. It was the first time in my life I felt so safe, and I just wished that could be an everyday thing, because clearly we had enough cops to cover that. Where they all went to after that? Retirement.
And Arifna, just going back to what Gideon touched on earlier, the VETS governance school of governance report. It talks about, if you read it, it talks about the period of the World Cup.
Oh,
and
yes.
how it went down, you know. Oof. And guys, our problems are very simple. Our problems are not very complicated. if you think about it, if you boil it down, and I don't want to sound like a politician, we got to fix certain fundamentals, certain basic things for us to ultimately, sort of get to a space where we want to be, and it takes political will. But even more importantly, it takes civilian will. People are very interesting, right? And I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's us. We're just a bunch of lazy motherfuckers. And I've said this before, until we hit the streets and demand change, nothing is going to happen. And you can go back to all the podcasts that we've had. We complain about, the FCA, gun control and all of that. But what are we doing about it? We're happy to go on Twitter, we're happy to go on social media and bitch and moan. But what are we actually doing about it? Let's look at the taxi owners. And I know I sound like a broken record. When those guys have an issue with something, they close down a highway, they close down a road, they shut down the economy. And I mean, I'm reading somewhere that the taxi owners are now starting to complain about the fuel price. Let's see what's going to happen there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We as gun owners, what are we doing? We as civilians, what are we doing? Are we just going on Twitter? I mean, about a month ago, there was this talk of the national shutdown. And I remember saying
it just evaporated. Poof.
Yeah.
God.
And I was thinking, like, I want to actually go. I'm ready. I woke up in that morning and I was like, I'm going to the shutdown. Where is the Pretoria arm at? Nothing happened. And that was very sad, because if you were to look at the class of 1976, what they did, what they achieved, and I'm sorry to say this, but we just look like a bunch of fucking pussies.
Well, that counts for all of us, Khofu. And I mean, you have been saying this for close to 2 years. And here's the thing: we could organize a protest tomorrow. Is anyone going to come? That is my because we're too lazy, and you don't want to organize a protest and no one pitches, because then you really look very weak. And I'm
counting myself in this, by the way, right?
The EFF.
I'm counting myself in all of this. I'm also one of those that goes to social media and bitch and moan. You know what I mean? But I think I'm at that point where I'm ready to hit the streets.
That makes at least two of us, perhaps 3 or 4 in this conversation. So to the people in the comments, how many of you would hit the streets with us? And be honest, if you don't want to, don't stick your hand up.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my legs up.
This guy.
So while the audience is reacting, like my final thoughts before I end it, so we can actually go, well, I still need to go have dinner. Firstly, Undamiso, thank you so much for your compliment. Yeah. Please keep following us. We'll try to give you some more good advice. Pew Nando, maybe just tag me in Twitter on the video, because sorry, where did he go now? There he is. Because then I can find you. And to everyone else, I need to actually, there he goes, to that side. We actually need to do, as Themba pointed out, we need a proper agenda and talking point. I've got actually nothing to say, because you all covered my usual talking points. But yeah, we're going to have to get to, don't worry, we know security companies that can give us security while we're at the protest. It's all good. On this completely bombshell, I'm just going to say, let's organize maybe hitting the streets. Let's get gun ownership real, because I ain't giving mine up, and nor any of you. And Ari, we need to make sure you get yours first, which you're in the process of doing. Stay safe this weekend. Be your own first responder. No one else is going to be it. And go practice shooting beyond 20 meters if you can.
Take care of your family, love your wives, keep them warm.
That's it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm going to play our outro now, our brand new outro. So cheers, Jordan. Bye-bye.
Bye.